Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Very serious change, and that is the Russians finally, I would say finally, because that could possibly end the garbage in Ukraine and tell these infantiles here in the West to back the fuck off. And the Russians announced, Putin ordered drills, nuclear weapons drills, but not the regular ones, the big ones. That's been done before. The tactical nuclear weapons. That is, the ones with lower intensity. That is, we're going to use something maybe in Ukraine, but why? Why now? Well, this is a response, finally, I would say, finally a response to these imbeciles claiming that they will send, should we send NATO troops in Ukraine? We can, yeah, we might, yeah. The Foreign Legion, the French Foreign Legion, reportedly, according to a former U.S. defense official, I covered that yesterday, are already in Ukraine fighting the Russians. They're about to send 1,500 French foreign legionnaires to fight in Ukraine. Little by little. Remember the mountain slope model? You start slow and then you go hard. So the Russians announced nuclear weapon drills after a row with senior Western officials. That is imbecile Cameron, imbecile Macron. These are the two imbeciles at this point. Remember, NATO now reached a point where it says, if there's two red lines, if Russia crosses the two red lines, we will send troops. What are the red lines? One, if Russia breaks the front in Ukraine, that means wins, like clearly. And the other one, plus the other one, the Ukrainians ask for, hey, can you send some troops? This, as I said before, could be achieved yesterday, or the day before, or last week. Let me show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 articles about this very important development, very important. I think this should have been done much earlier. Not because I want the destruction of anybody. These infantiles don't understand, or they push it. It's like a child. You tell the child not to do something and the child is going to push, until really you do something about it. And when you do something about it, it's going to go back a little bit. And they're going to try again. That's how these guys are. Until they get smacked, real smacked, they still live in the euphoric infantility of a prolonged adolescence. Let's put it this way. Here. This is according to Associated Press, taken by the Irish News. Russia announces nuclear weapon drills after a row with senior Western officials. Russian plans to hold drills simulating the use of tactical nuclear weapons, the defense minister has announced days after the Kremlin reacted angrily to comments by senior Western officials about the war in Ukraine. How euphemistically is right here. The exercise, this is the clear. The exercises are in response to, and they clearly tell you, the Russians, provocative statements and threats of certain Western officials regarding the Russian Federation, end quote, the defense minister said in a statement. So it is the first time that Russia has publicly announced drills involving tactical nuclear weapons through its strategic nuclear forces regularly hold exercises. So the strategic nuclear forces regularly landing big bombs, like the ones that, I don't know, go 8,000 miles, those guys. No. Now they're with tactical nuclear weapons. These are smaller ones, but still nuclear. Remember Ramzan Kadyrov? He and deceased, what's his name, Sergei Prigozhin, both of them said, use the tactical nuclear weapons. Well, I'm not for it, but I think these guys should stop their imbecility before these guys might use it. I think I claimed this many times, the Russians should have put this on a table the moment the West sent the first bullet to Ukraine. The first bullet. This should have been done on whenever, in February or March 2022. We would not have had maybe 1 million of people dead over there, Ukrainians, Russians and others, and displaced people and destroyed a country and so on. We shouldn't have had that. But hey, these guys are crazy, and they are so crazy that they will push us in a war. I said this unless the Russians say, we do these little drills here for a reason, and the reason we are serious about it. The Russians were very consistent in good and in bad. That is, I give you $1, they gave you $1. I punch you in the face, they punched you in the face. So I don't know what's hard for these guys but they're toddlers. These are infantile, as I said, prolonged adolescents for these guys. And they think they're untouchable. Look, for instance, at Lindsey Graham and other idiots' statements about taking out Putin. I guarantee you, and I'm not promoting this. This is just an intelligent, intellectual conversation. I guarantee you that if Russia wants to send Lindsey Graham to his gods, they can do it. But I guarantee you that if Lindsey Graham wants to send Putin to his gods, it ain't gonna happen. I mean, get a number and stay in line, Lindsey Graham. There's so many that are trying that already. I've seen how the senators are protected in the United States of America. I've seen that in campus. When I was a student here in the United States of America, I've seen a Senator Levin, I can't remember, Carl Levin, whatever he was first name, Levin, Senator of Michigan, showing up in a freaking hall with his hands in the pockets. The Jewish, mind you, Senator of the state of Michigan, Levin. He showed up over there with his... I was looking for security. I watched him when he left. I couldn't see. You could say, he could have been spoken to right there. Anyway, so let's look around here and see what else these guys have to say. Tactical nuclear weapons have a lower yield compared to massive warheads that arm intercontinental ballistic missiles intended to obliterate entire cities. The announcement appeared to be a warning to Ukraine's Western allies about becoming more deeply involved in the more than 2-year war. I said this before. Let's go to the next one. The Telegraph. Putin orders tactical nuclear weapons drills after imbecile Lord Cameron's comments on Ukraine's war. So Putin has ordered drills simulating the use of tactical nuclear weapons days after the Kremlin reacted angrily to comments on Ukraine war by Emmanuel Macron and imbecile David Cameron. The drills are in response to provocative statements. We already got that one. The same. It was the first time publicly announced doing that. The same thing here. The same as the other one. Next one. Ukrainska Pravda, the Ukrainians. Putin orders nuclear weapons drills in response to Western, quote-unquote, threats. This is all of them are from May 6th. Doesn't look right, but anyway. All right, the Ministry of Defense pop up that it will soon conduct exercises involving the use of non-strategic nuclear weapons on the orders of Russian ruler. They will use it. I hope they don't. If these guys are really serious about sending troops, and they seem to be ready. Now let's see what the Russian Defense Ministry has to say. And I'm quoting: by order of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation to increase the readiness of non-strategic nuclear forces to perform combat tasks, the General Staff has begun preparations for conducting exercises in the near future with missile units of the Southern Military District involving aircraft as well as forces of the Navy. These guys will do it. Well, I hope the infantiles get the message. Russia Today. Putin orders tactical nuclear weapons drills, an exercise to check the military's ability to use small-range systems, was announced by the Defense Ministry on Monday. In the near future, missile forces the goal of the exercise is to iron out the practical aspects of the preparation and deployment of non-strategic nuclear weapons. The military cited provocative statements and threats against Russia by certain Western officials. Remember the Russian nuclear weapons doctrine, the use of them. If we are threatened and our allies are threatened with conventional or with nuclear weapons, we will do it. Well, if they do, they elevate it to that point. As I said, the Russians have no mood on fighting a conventional direct war, hot war with the West. No mood. That's why when you hear the Poles trying to show their balls, or you hear the Baltic states or anyone who's making, like, the countries that have a history of with Russia say, oh, we might do this, we might that. I said Russians are just doing this. Come on, bring it on, bring the fuck on, and they will not be so, I will use this word, mild, sending what, 600,000 troops in Ukraine instead of sending, I don't know, 20 million, or obliterating Ukraine in one night. No, I think they will save that treatment for their friends, because remember, some Russians consider the Ukrainians like themselves, not only like brothers. It's us. We were just it's Polish influence. It's just the Russians. Some of them claim that way. So they see the Ukrainians as being themselves with Polish influences, or they say they're at least brothers, malo Russians, right? Malenki, small Russian, malo, which the Ukrainians dislike that a lot. I know that for a fact. So malo Rush, what do you mean malo Rush? Malenki. Anyway, so memories. So here we have the Russians consider the Ukrainians closer than the Poles. They don't consider the Ukrainians the enemies, but definitely the Poles the enemies. So the Poles know that. They're not imbeciles. I know some of the Poles say, look in the history, and you're going to find out. If you think that history is just erased, just think about this. Let's say the neighbor grandfather raped your grandmother. I'm okay with the neighbor, right? I don't think so. So, and vice versa, it happened both ways. Don't get me wrong. It was not like the Russians were the victims here and the Poles were the aggressors. It happened both ways. I'm talking about it's a history, and the Russians will not have patience for Poles, Baltic states, especially after Baltic states talk so much smack. Baltic states, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania. Together, they have 6.2 million people. Together, 6.2, a fucking 1/3 of Moscow or something. But they are big yapping around. So let's see what else these guys are saying. So the troops will confirm that they can ensure unconditional territorial integrity and sovereignty of the nation, it added. So that's it, my friends. The US and its allies have accused Moscow of nuclear saber rattling. I don't care what you fucking accuse me. Back off, I will fuck you up. I don't care how you take it. Take it as, get the fuck off. I would say it. But anyway, Putin said in March that at no point in the conflict has the situation required such a radical move as nuclear strike. No, but things evolve or devolve. Next. Sputnik, Russia. Russia's general staff preparing for drills to practice. You want to practice for what? Get ready for what? Use of non-strategic nuclear weapons 5 hours ago. So these guys right here, this looks like a Iskander. Oh, it is an Iskander. Iskander M, right? Yeah, that's one that can carry. Iskander, or you have the Kinzhals with MiG-31. When the MiG-31s take off with the Kinzhal, these guys are ready for nuclear war. Why? Because they can carry that and they cannot down it. Oh, sorry, the Patriot can do it 100%. All right, that too. So let's move on. So it's in response to provocative threats by Western nations against Russia. All right, well, what can you do? And again, this is the same statement coming from these guys. They show us the Iskanders. All right, it says here, NATO large scale, and I said this before, steadfast defender drills are a clear indication that the alliance, NATO, is preparing for a potential conflict with Russia, provoked by Russia, okay? Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said on Sunday. So, right now NATO is conducting its largest drill since the Cold War steadfast defender near the Russian border, according to the scenario, using all tools, including hybrid ones and conventional weapons. They are exercising coalition actions against Russia. We have to admit that NATO states are seriously preparing for a potential conflict with us, about which, by the way, high-ranking NATO representatives are openly talking, Zakharova said. I think that's clear. So let's go to the last article. I think we have it here, which comes from Sputnik again. Russian missile drills linked to NATO threats of troop deployment to Ukraine. Got that? You send troops, we're gonna fuck you up. But the mercenaries are over there, the French Legion. Statements by the French president, UK officials and representatives of the United States about their readiness and intention to send military personnel to Ukraine require special attention and special measures. Got it? And I said this before, that should have been met with this kind of action when these guys sent the first bullet. That would have avoided all the destruction. That's my... What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to attack us with nuclear weapons? Let's say. No, you're not going to. Why? Because you have more to lose. I'm talking about the guys in charge of us. You have more to lose than those guys with Putin. Yeah, Putin is going to lose what? His life, and these guys have generations that fought hard to be in charge of this planet. Generations. Do you think they want to lose it? Do you think that Soros wants to die for Ukraine? I'm not talking about the old snake, the younger one. Alexander. How in the fuck these guys are naming themselves Roman and Alexander? How in the hampula mea they do this? I never thought. So look at them. Alexander, Alexei. These guys are all Alexander. Alexei Reznikov. What the fuck? Alexander Soros. Isn't that Alexander Soros? Or Roman? Roman. What the Roman? Why not Joshua or what the fuck? And all right, let's go back here. And I'm quoting. Actually, this is a stated exhaustively in a. This is stated exhaustively in the statement of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation. There is nothing to add there. If you ask me what statements of Western representatives we are talking about, it is obvious that we are talking about the statement of Macron and statement of the British representatives. Lord shithead Cameron. Cameron quit or was fired because of poor performance. So he was not good as a prime minister of Great Britain. And now he is appointed as a foreign minister? Is that the way it works? So if I screw up, let's say, in my job and I get fired, I get hired on the same shit? A little deviation. Foreign minister is very important, okay? Jesus Christ. That's how it works. That's socialism out there and very wild jungle-like capitalism among us. You know, they also added a representative of the US Senate, if I'm not mistaken, who spoke of readiness and even intention to send armed contingents to Ukraine. That is, to actually expose NATO soldiers to the Russian military, Peskov said. They require special attention and special measures. Okay, well, we'll see. What do you think will happen from now? I think these guys here will start threatening, if you do this, we're going to do this. We're going to do this and with you and in my lives. That's exactly what these guys wanted. You don't think so? I thought sometimes that incompetence is the ruling, how should I put it? Incompetence, or maybe, being evil, or, I think being inclined to have profits out of this war is what makes them make mistakes. There's no mistakes. Don't look at when oh my God, we made so many diplomatic mistakes. Do not believe that. I don't believe that at all. I believe that these guys channeled things in one direction, and it happened. We made a mistake. I don't think the sanctions imposed on Russia, which clearly show a mistake because the guys who imposed sanctions are more affected by the consequences of the sanctions than the Russians are. I don't think it's a mistake. I don't think it's a miscalculation. I think it's a very calculated move to eliminate some competition in these sides, and I get in on top. Like the United States. The United States is not very affected by the sanctions, only the Europeans and to a certain extent the Russians. The Americans are doing well, and who's the one who wants everyone to sanction everybody who they don't like? The guys in charge of the United States of America. There are some at least three, how should I put it, industries that are profiting out of this war by luck, by chance. The war it's an opportunity that they cannot refuse. All right? So this is the banking system. Those guys are in charge. You got the military industrial complex with his arm manufacturing garbage and the energy sector. These guys are the ones. These guys are the ones. They make profits like no other ones, except Zelensky. Okay? These are the guys. Do you think they miscalculated? They did not donate enough money to the guys that now are pushing this garbage? Do you think so? And who's going to reconstruct Ukraine if we win? The banks? It's going to be the energy sector, obviously, the manufacturing, the how do you call it? The infrastructure. And then what's going to be? Military industrial complex. We have to defend ourselves for future blah, blah, blah. So the Russians will continue saying what they do. They're going to do what they said they will do. These guys will, we're going to do this, we're going to fight America, we are attacked, see, those are crazies, we have to defend you, right? And I hope it doesn't get to that point. I hope everything in Ukraine stops before it gets. But let's say, put the scenario, the Russians use tactical nuclear weapons. But I hope they don't use it on the Ukrainians. I hope they use it on the guys over there, so these guys can say, yeah, see, that's evidence, they attacked us, but we are in Ukraine. How in the fuck everything is upside down? It's like Alice in Wonderland. Up is down, down is down, like you jump through this one and you show up that way. It's the same here. It's upside down. War is peace, good is bad, and vice versa. It's an inversion of reality. But it's a 180% degrees. It's unbelievable. Not unbelievable because it's real. We have to believe it. So I think that's what's going to happen. The Russians will go on. The Russians will do it, unfortunately, and they will do it in locations. These guys are not going to match that. If they're going to match that, we're going to head towards the global destruction. And I guarantee you, why? By the record, that the Russians will not stop. Consistency, my friends. Pattern, consistency. Those guys act like adults. These guys act like, as Medvedev said, infantile morons. And they're in charge of us through democracy and campaign donations and the mass media. Jesus Christ. Thank you very much for being with me again today. So yeah, bring it on. The Russians will escalate because we try to de-escalate it. The reverse reality. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.